Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today we're going to be taking a look at Sir Khan's watch collection, and it has sort of the variety vintage. There's a very wide variety and they're mostly vintage, pretty much so, maybe 70s, 80s, 90s type of vintage. All right, well, let's get started because there are a lot of watches here. Excuse me. First of all, I have the blade, and I know nothing about it. I've never heard of a blade before, but it's an interesting looking watch. Next to it is a Bostock, and that's a Russian make, and I think, but I'm not positive, that may be their alarm version. It has an alarm in it, and you set it, but I'm not positive. The below that is an Edox. It's another watch I really don't know a lot about. In fact, I don't know anything about it. Nor the one next to it, the Cami. The Cami is interesting because it shows 7 Sun for Sunday and then 24. The top number would be the month, so it'd be Sunday, July 7th. I'm sorry. It would be July 24th. That's the 7th for. All right, this next group is, we get into something I know a little about, the Car, which is a really interesting looking watch. I don't know anything about. The Eterna, I know their movement is fairly familiar, and it's this is a pretty nice one. It's a fairly somewhat. By the way, too, Cirque sent me all of these. And he didn't tell me anything about any of them, so bear with me on this. The Favre-Leuba is both of those Favre-Lubas are it's a watch that has been around for quite a while, a watch brand. It's made in Geneva. And the thing about them is that these two automatics, one with a red and one with a silver center second hand, they used, I have one of my vintage Beauvais is a monorattrapant. And got my Beauvais on today. I figured this one was from the 1930s, so maybe it'd be appropriate. So you have a couple Favre-Lubas. They're very interesting. They're both they're different. The different kinds of lugs on them. One has a metal bracelet. The other one has a strap on a leather strap. So yeah, they're throughout the whole collection. I found this that they're the same, but they're different, and it's a very, very special, at least to me, because I didn't learn as much as I could. I was running out of time. I was looking up all these different companies and everything that I didn't know. Then I found them really interesting. And this collection has been a lot of fun for me. Okay, let's move on. Here's another Favre-Leuba, and some other ones is Louis Roselle. That's at the top. The shape of that looks very much like that cushion shape from the 70s. Usually they're associated with a digital kind of watch, but that one's an automatic. Most of these seem to be automatic. On the bottom are two different Omegas. One, the Omega Dynamic, I didn't really know anything about. Now, on the other hand, the Seamaster, the Omega Seamaster, is a coaxial, so that is probably a little later, a little newer version of it. And I like it. Boy, that with the white dial and the black hands, very clear. It's got that little bitty window in it, but another thing too, Cirques, a lot of them have date windows in them, or just date windows. All right, moving right along. Here we have another Seamaster. Now this one seems to be older. I don't think it has a coaxial in it. It's an interesting one. Now, one that I really like, I've never seen it before, and I don't think I've ever heard of it. I mean, Optima is a car model, I think that Toyota or Nissan, somebody makes. This watch is, I love it. You at the top up there, it's got 11, and then in Roman numerals it has 12, and then back to Arabic numbers it has 1. Same on the bottom. It looks like a wild mix of Frank Mueller and or Frank Mueller on acid. What a great watch! I love this watch. Look at those lugs. Those the the 4-horn lugs on it. This watch is really something else. It looks like a chronograph too. I looked all over to find it, see if I could find one. This is another thing. This excuse me again. This collection took a long time because wow, what is that? And I'd go running after and trying to find it. Okay, the bottom left is another interesting brand. The logo, I guess, is part a palm tree because I went and looked at a lot of the Poggles, and this is the Pog-O-Matic, Pago-Matic. It sounds like. These all have a palm tree. I love palm trees, so I got a big kick out of that. The Rado is a Rado Musketeer 10. And I have a Rado. I have a friend of mine years ago, boy, probably it's going on 40 years now, gave me a Rado. It still works fine. It's a Rado quartz. But I got a soft spot for Rados. Rados never said they were ever going to make their own movement, and they've kept their word. They use some other movement. Probably ETA, either the mechanical or the quartz that they have for that. Anyway, it's still an interesting looking watch. Rado is known for doing some really interesting experiments with different materials. And they were one of the first ones to use ceramics in their watches. Okay, here's another Rado, Rado Voyager, and MIE 9. I'm not sure what language that is. French, perhaps? Anyway, interesting looking watch. And then across from it has a rotary, and again you have the two little day-date windows up at the top. That's sort of a very interesting looking watch. Another watch I didn't know anything about. Now we get into Seikos. We have a Seiko on the left bottom there, and it's with a cushion case for it. And then across from it is the first of many Seiko Bell-Matics. The Bell-Matic has an alarm in it, and that's the bell in the Bell-Matic. All right, moving right along. Here we have 3 more Seiko Bell-Matics. Each one of them a different color, and I thought they're very interesting looking watches. Very interesting. They look like they're almost from outer space, the way that they flatten out at the bottom, or a couple of them do flatten out at the bottom, and then they have the watch on top of sort of like some kind of platform, a steel platform, and then pop the watch on top. Okay, and then the bottom right there is a Seiko Sports. And again, we're seeing these day-dates in most of the windows, which I think is an interesting thing that Cirque has in his watches. All right, moving right along, we come into Swiss military. Now, it's not a Swiss Army, but it's a Swiss military watch. And yeah, it's got the symbol of Switzerland. I don't know, again, this is one I don't know too much about. The Technos Hydrotron, I'm not sure why they call it that, except I think they look like they had most of the crown. And again, these are all interesting looking watches. The Tissot Sea Star. Now, This was paired with Omega. Omega was going to be the expensive one, and Tissot was going to be the more of the affordable ones on it. Here's an old one, so affordable or not, it seemed to have held up. Now this next one is at the bottom down there is the Titoni Airmaster, and again, this is another watch I hadn't heard of before. This one is let me see, is that a I think it's an automatic. There were a lot of automatics in this collection. Okay, the final ones we come to, there's another Titoni, a Titoni Ray King. That I thought was a very interesting one. And there's two Titoni Airmasters, one white and one black. The black one has Roman numerals, and the white one has the white dial has just the hour markers, and they're both very traditional, straightforward dress watch kind of looking watches. Nice watches, since I like that kind. Finally, we end up with a West End watch company, Prima. This watch company, it's a Swiss watch company. It sounds like it comes out of, the West End of London or New York or Chicago or someplace like that. But it's a Swiss company. And this one, again, you have a very interesting date at the top, and then you have another magnified date window at 3 o'clock, which it makes this an interesting watch and a very, to me anyway, a fairly practical one. Okay, we haven't had a review in a long time, and this one, Cirque has a lot more watches in this. This is a very interesting kind of watch collection. Now, I didn't talk much about the movements, and because I had no information on them, and the by retrograde has that Daniel's escapement in it. That's a fantastic movement, but I really don't have any great information about these, and I don't recognize most of them as ones with exceptional or interesting, well, they're not uninteresting, but they're not horologically things that people say, hey, you ought to take a look at that. That's okay. I mean, you've got the coaxial, that's a good one. But so many interesting watches and such a variety. And that Optima, that is just, still, I can't get over that. That is a neat looking watch. Interesting, very different. I know a lot of people wouldn't like it, but I like it. And that's, I thought it was cool. And I think it's a very interesting one. And like I said, I think this is just the sort of the top of the iceberg in terms of Cirque's watch collection. Want to thank him again. I probably, your name is spelled SRK, no vowels, and I did my best. So if it's pronounced a different way, I'm terribly sorry. I hope I got cons right though. Anyhow, so I'd like to hear your comments on this collection. This kind of collection, a very different kind of collection, in the sense that it's, we've seen other vintage collections, but boy, I tell you, this one's big and it's got a very big variety. I'd like to hear your opinions on it. And of course, this is an invitation to subscribe if you like. All right, this has been Bill Sanders with Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection, and hope to see you next Friday.